I'm very excited for this one. My guests today are April Jones and Ricky Stardust. They are co-owners of Top Tier Wrestling in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I should say that I should say that John Paul Zammit, a good fan of yours and your shows, introduced me to you. And this is the first time that I've featured people from the pro wrestling community into the podcast. So, what better ways to start a series of conversations in regards to wrestling than this one? April, Ricky,
Thank
welcome to
you.
the show. How are you?
Thank you. We're super happy to be here and the first wrestling guest. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's our pleasure
Yeah.
to be your first guest, and I guess thanks to JP for pimping us over to your channel. And, hopefully we do them proud, do your fans proud. So
Absolutely.
all right. Yeah. Top Tier Wrestling's next event is May Day, which will be in May 31st.
Yes.
Incidentally, in the continent of Europe as well as the rest of the world, May Day is incidentally Labor Day and is celebrated on the 1st of May. So
Hmm.
it's a good factoid to know. I should like to begin by asking you, what can we expect in the May Day event?
oh well, like any top tier event, you're going to have your mix of stars of, and I hate to use the term higher, but outside of indie wrestling, your WWEs, your AEWs, TNAs, the next evolution of indie wrestling, your next level of wrestling, mixing with local talent, the next generation of guys that are aspiring to get to that tier, no pun intended, um, throwing down and putting on um, great family friendly, high paced, high energy, um, and for our area, the best show for the best price as far as wrestling is concerned.
Oh yeah. One thing I'm quite excited about May Day is the appearance of Rhino, who's a wrestling
Yeah.
legend and a TNA Hall of Famer. So how did
Yeah.
you guys
Yeah.
manage to score him?
Well, I've been in the business for 28 years before I retired. April just over 10.
Yeah.
So we've made many relationships with many people over those years. Um, we've had several talents. I don't know how well you verse yourself in the history of top tier. But as far as like the legends before, like a Santino Morella has worked for us before. Um, because of who we are and what we've done in the business, we've been able to craft and articulate relationships with these people and to get the opportunity to make sure that Rhino's schedule met our schedules was fantastic
Yeah.
because we've been trying to work that out for about 6 months now. Finally, it hit this one. So we're very happy that he's at this show. We're very happy that he's going to be working with TNA superstar Cody Deaner, who's our top tier wrestling champion, our heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're very stoked because Rhino, even for myself, I marked out for Rhino with big gores and everything back in the
Yeah.
ECW days. So yeah, even when he used to wrestle in Toronto,
Hmm.
Hmm.
where technically we're from, when he used to run with Edge and Christian and Joey Legend, Rhino was part of that faction. So like he's been around. We've
Wow.
stomped the same grounds for a long time. So it's great to finally the next evolution of that relationship is to have him work for us. So
Yeah, that's great to hear.
especially with us,
Yeah.
with us.
All right. So for those who don't know, Santino Marella is a Canadian wrestler, and he's most well known for being portraying an Italian, sort of like stereotypical Italian character
Yeah.
in WWE and now TNA. And I believe his daughter is currently a wrestler as well. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
Yeah.
wickedly funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how was TTW, Top Tier Wrestling, started?
Do you want to start this or?
Yeah. I think it started, for a very, very long time. I would say even shortly after I got into wrestling, I knew that I personally wanted to, at some point in my career, start a promotion, my own promotion. And over the course of the years, working for really like hundreds of different promotions between Canada and the US, you as a wrestler get a real sense of good promotions and not so good promotions. And I really sort of started to hone in on what type of promotion I would want to develop. Ricky, back in the day, actually had run a well-known promotion in our area. And I know that that was something he sort of always wanted to get back into as well. So as our careers were both sort of, winding down in terms of Ricky retiring or knowing that he was going to retire, I had suffered a few injuries and knew that I still really wanted to be part of the wrestling world and a participant in it, but I just couldn't be in the ring to do it. It just sort of, in my opinion, made sense for us to unite on this project together, and develop top tier wrestling. And with Ricky being in the industry, considerably longer than myself, he definitely has a good business sense of how to do a lot of the behind the scenes things with a promotion that, most fans don't realize happen. I brought in, my elements to it as well. And it really, in my opinion, worked out really harmoniously together.
Yeah, it's very, very yin yang.
Yeah.
What I lack, you fill, and what you lack, I fill, and it works for a very great dynamic. And as far as business, it works very well, because what I'll miss, she'll pick up, and vice versa. What she sees as something that might be the next big thing, I don't catch it. Like, I didn't get that, or vice versa. Um, Sometimes, like anything else, it might not be what you think it is when it comes to fruition. But for the most part, we work off each other's energy to make sure that we are providing the very best of what we can provide to the fans, and even to our talent, who I think, if asked anybody who's ever worked for us or works for us on the regular, our locker room is unlike 90% of the locker rooms in the business, where we treat each and every person that comes into our locker room like family, because we believe, as former wrestlers, they are our brothers, they are our sisters. We have to do stuff to look after them, because they are the ones, they're coming, they're in our house, but they're our family. It's just like you going to your parents' house and then having dinner. Like, you're coming to our house for a meal, and let's go out and let's have some fun. So, because of our experiences as wrestlers and the mistreatment that unfortunately a lot of promoters do to their talent, we knew going in, we can't do that. We have to be better. We have to be that next step. We have to be, and again, pardon the pun, the top tier when it comes to what we want to do for these people, because those people are our brothers, they are our sisters, and they're the ones going out there, and they are sacrificing themselves now for the betterment of the program, for the betterment of our product. So, because of those things, I think that was those tiers that we, boxes or whatever you want to call it, we had to check off to make sure that if we were going to do this and actually put 100% of ourselves into this project, into this business, these are things that had to be made sure we did. And the second we stop doing those, is the second that we can't do this anymore.
Of course, yeah. Hence, top tier wrestling. Yeah. So, what are some of the most commonly held misconceptions that people who are not wrestling fans have about professional wrestling?
I would say by far, wrestling is fake.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest one,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Hey, Ricky.
Yeah, I hate to be the Wizard of Oz here and like make you look behind the curtain. Sure, there is predetermined things that happen on a wrestling show, but I can tell you for a fact, after breaking bones, I've literally snapped my leg in half, Sid Vicious style, in a ring. It happens. I mean, you are essentially an actor, and you're in a ring putting on a story. Sure, but it's real. Like, when you hit the mat, when you take those bumps, it hurts. I might be trained all day long and how to do X move or throw a punch or shot. There's guys that show up, they have welts, they have roots, because there is physicality in it. So to say it's fake bothers me, because it's like, if you want to say predetermined, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But there's nothing about what I've done through my body, what April's done to her body, what the thousands of men and women in this business have done to their bodies. That's fake. So that, I think, would be my biggest I guess misconception when it comes to wrestling, is the term fake.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, when you are confronted with that, what would be your response?
Well, old school, like going back to the 70s and such, I think it was might have been Dr. Death. I have to go back and check. But he literally, like, when a reporter asked him that, punched the reporter right in the face and go, "Would that feel fake?" You know, I mean, I can't remember. I think it might have been Hogan put, oh, it was it's a whole talk show, but put him in a sleeper hold and he was out. And like, you know, there again, it's real, but it's real to an extent. It's as real as we want to make it, and it's as real as you want to let it into your fantasy that it is. So there's that gray area of where fantasy meets reality. We can go in there and we can be UFC, we can be a boxing match, but that's not the entertainment you came to sit for. You want the story involved with the physicality. You want to see the aerial moves that nobody in their right mind would ever do in a fight, but it looks fantastic on television, it looks fantastic live. So it's the ability to mix realism with fantasy as a whole. That's what wrestling is. And that's exactly what I tell any fan. Either that or I'd show them all my scars. I'd pull out pictures of my broken leg, whatever, because there is real things. I can show you 1,000 wrestlers right now, the vets that can barely walk anymore, going to these Comic Cons and stuff to try and still earn some money.
Mick Foley is a perfect example of that. You know, you see Mick Foley, that man is hurting to this day. Look at everything that he did in the course of his career. He did the most wildest things, and he's paid the price. We see him now. He's, you know, his
ear was ripped off in a match with Vader, and I think it was Germany or something like that. His tooth went through his upper lip in the Hell in a Cell against Taker. Like there's realism, and then there's fake. What I see on a movie is fake. What I see in that ring is two men, two women, whatever the mashup you want to have there, that are going in there giving 100% of themselves to please the 20, 30 thousands of people in that crowd, because that's what we want. We want you to come and suspend disbelief for 2, 3, 4 hours and walk away saying, well, that was the best 10, 20, 30, 40 bucks I've ever spent in my life. I'm coming back next month.
Yeah. And since you mentioned Mick Foley, if you're watching on video, I believe April is paying homage to him, or at least one of his characters, like Cactus Jack with a shirt.
Reppin'.
I know. Yeah.
Little Cactus Jack going for you.
Yeah, he's one of the greatest.
Oh yeah.
And a funny guy.
Yeah.
Very, very much so.
Well-spoken, well-educated, funny guy.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to, facing the fact that I think fans, for the most part, know that professional wrestling is predetermined. The winners are not known beforehand. So I think if you're a wrestling promotion, you can do one of two things. You can lean into the fact that people know that is predetermined and make it as over the top as possible. And I believe it is one of the elements that make was it the Attitude Era of WWF so great.
Yeah.
But you can double down on the realistic aspect of it and keep fans in the dark about what's real and what's fantasy. So what philosophy do you guys lean on?
See, I'll let you speak on this too, but I love the Attitude Era for certain elements. Yeah. But when like you had Mae Young delivering a hand as a baby and stuff like that, or when Terry Funk came out as Chainsaw Charlie, I mean, there's that element where you're just taking it too far. There's that fine line. Like you got to walk a very, very fine line between reality and fantasy, and as long as you can maintain as much reality as you can, as two grown men dressed up in various outfits, going and punching the crap out of each other in a squared circle in front of people, you got the captivity of the audience. The second you go beyond that, then you're going to start they're going to see them tap out. That's the time. I find the more extreme you try to go, the more people get up to go to the bathroom. Well, that's a bathroom match. I'm gone. I'm going to go for a smoke. I'm going to go to the bar, whatever. It's when you can get in and you can see and believe that those two people are beating the living hell out of each other. That's what they believe.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They want to see that good guy just fight and dig his way while the bad guy's doing his cheating moves and nobody sees it, but they got to cheer. Oh, look, ref, look. That's wrestling.
Yeah.
Outside of that, now you're getting into more carny stuff, and that has its place, but it's not a show.
Okay. Well, for those who are not familiar with professional wrestling terms, the two most frequently used ones are babyface and heel. Babyface
Yeah.
means the good guy, and heel
Yeah.
means the bad guy. So, of the two archetypes, which ones do you guys prefer to
Oh, heel.
portray and to
I love
watch?
being heel. Heel.
Yeah.
She's I think forever, even when she worked was a heel, but it was weird because as much as it was, she was like the female Stone Cold Steve Austin. As much as she would go out there and slap guys, when she was a manager, or kick him in the hacky sack, whatever, the more she got over, because the crowd just was drawn to her the same way. No matter what Stone Cold did, he was over. Like, as much as he tried to be a bad guy, everybody loved him. Even when he came out as a bad guy and he was doing the what's, the crowd went nuts. Cena right now cannot get booed. There's certain people that will try so hard to be a heel, but the fans love them so much they can't. Whereas I love the baby. I'm all about the baby. I'm all about Ricky Steamboat getting that bell on his throat from Macho Man and turning blue. I'm all about Hogan, hulking up and slamming Andre the Giant. You know what I mean? So, like, as much as we agree on everything, again, yin yang, I'm more the baby. She's more the heel.
But I will say this about you, Ricky.
Sure.
When Ricky and I joined forces, Ricky turned heel, and he was probably the most popular he'd ever been playing heel than he ever did being face.
I made a lot more money as a bad guy than I made as a good guy.
Yeah.
And they just need to gravitate towards that energy. So, you know what I mean? Everybody has their own vice and their own thing.
And since you mentioned Hulk Hogan, do you prefer red and yellow Hogan or black and white Hogan?
I'm very old school, so I'm red and yellow all day. I know Ricky will probably choose a little difference.
From a finance point of view, from a strictly business sense, black and white, like NWO days, with the exception of that god awful beard that he had going, which he's doing again for this freestyle thing. But I thought that, again, not putting me in it, him turning heel was perfect for business. Just like Cena turning heel, nobody saw it coming. It's perfect for business. So from a business point of view, NWO. From a fan point of view, like old school fan, Hulkamania. So
yeah, to me, I think anybody you think of wrestling, even if you I'll use my parents for an example who aren't up on, current times of wrestlers or whatnot. If I said a wrestler and I said Hulk Hogan, they would know who Hulk Hogan is, because he exemplifies wrestling, what put wrestling on really in my opinion, the mainstream map, So it's like, you think Hulk Hogan, everybody knows who Hulk Hogan is. You don't have to be a wrestling fan, but the second you see a picture of him or those colors, it exemplifies wrestling.
Him and Vince, when they did their melting pot of let's do something with this, and coming out with WrestleMania 1 and all the craziness that went with it, everybody knew from that moment on Hulk Hogan. He was a household name for years. Hulk Hogan. Say your prayers, do your vitamins, eat your vitamins, blah 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 blah. Drink your milk, whatever it was. That you got it. He was a staple. He is a guy that, as much as I love Ric Flair and Rick Steamboat, Dusty Rhodes, they were great in the territory times for their territories. Hogan went global overnight. So, like, Hogan, as far as I'm concerned, whether you like him, whether you think he can't sell, can't cut a promo, whatever, he is the gospel. He is the top tier, again, pardon the pun, of that wrestling pyramid, because he's done it to a point where he built it for everybody else.
Oh yeah. I cannot disagree with that. I'm one of those people who knows him from the movies before I know about the wrestling. Suburban Commando and such.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the one where there's a scene with Mark Calloway, aka The
Yeah,
Undertaker, where
I voiced
they,
Calloway. Yeah,
yeah, I have fond memories of that movie.
yeah, yeah,
For my part, I always prefer not just the heel or the bad guy, but the manager of the bad guy.
Yeah.
I think the manager is the role that kind of like is fading. And April, I know that you have
Yeah.
some experience being the manager,
Yeah.
and of the names of managers that I can find, they're always the ones that represent the bad guys.
Yeah.
Of course, you have Heyman and Don Callis, but you also
yep,
have people like Jimmy Hart and
yep,
Bobby Heenan, the Brain.
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah, they for the most part represent the bad guys.
yep.
So, yeah, tell me about the role of the manager and how is whether you expect a revival of that role in the years to come.
How it's going to be, sorry, repot, like,
If
Revive,
it can be
basically.
product.
um, I hope it is. Like I see in indie wrestling in general, there's really not any valets, managers really anymore. You think back to the days, and I'll even look at Scary Sherry just as a woman, Miss Elizabeth, who, they were like super important. They played a super important role, especially when you look at the 80s that they kind of came into it, I guess early 90s ish.
Yeah, Elizabeth was 80s,
Yeah.
90s. Sherry wrestled before that, but she
I
was in
look
shock.
at Attitude Era, and although China was by no means was she a manager, she would accompany her crew to the ring, and so she played a vital role there, especially being like a strong woman in that group. So I think, and I would love to see elements like I think there's a thing of there's too many. If there's too many managers,
Yeah,
it's not a good thing. Having some though in the mix, I think is super important. I feel like I played really vital roles in my participation in being a manager, and who I started managing when I got into the industry. People were coming to see me, not really to come see him. They were coming to see me and see what I was doing, and that became probably pretty obvious early on.
yeah,
People were really into who April Jones was and what's April going to do. And people would be yelling, April, do this or April, do that. And it was wonderful. It's a great way to connect and see, what the audience wants, what the fans want. But I would like to see it come back. Like, I don't think we really have anybody that has worked for us that has a manager.
um, no,
No.
no.
Yeah.
We tend not to do that because
Mm-hmm.
in indie wrestling, especially, having a manager there can be a deterrent to the witnessing of the show, especially at this level if they haven't trained up beforehand to how to react. There's again, we get to that fine line. April was fantastic because she would never engage into the match unless it was something that her and her partner worked out behind. Like, listen, I'm going to do this. When I do that, you go do this.
Same with you.
It's yeah, it's when the manager becomes too much of a focal point and takes away from the wrestling. You've got the problem. Again, it's that balance.
It's a fine line, a real fine line.
Right?
Yeah.
And then there's also you have the ego. Some wrestlers can't handle having somebody else be their face, their voice, their you know what I mean. So like you have to have that right. Like Paul Heyman,
Oh.
I'm trying not to swear, is a genius
Yeah.
when it comes to wrestling business, being backstage, being a writer, being a producer, being a manager. He can go out there and he can cut the promo, or he can just sit there with that solemn face and just nod his head as part of the tribal council or whatever it is. That's a genius. When he was doing the whole thing for Brock, genius. He didn't have to interfere in anything. He just had to stand there and be Heyman. He had to talk for Brock because Brock respectfully can't cut a promo to save his life, but Reigns can. And with Reigns, he just, he does his role. That, if you get more guys like that, great. Um, as much as I love Slick, not a good manager. He could talk for the guys, but that was about it. Jimmy Hart, need Jimmy Harts. You need Elizabeths. You need to have, but not to excess.
Mm-hmm.
There's again that fine line. If everybody has a manager, they're washed out.
That's it. Yeah, I totally
You
agree.
get your 1, 2 a show, great. But it's that fine line, and then having and respectfully, the perfect person for that role. So hard. Alice, who's been it for years, he's been around. Like back WCW, ECW, WWE. He's been around. He's built that character. He knows how to be who he has to be a manager. There's people that come in thinking, "Oh, I'm going to do everything." No, man, you got to know you got to. This much is you. This much is everything else. You have to give this much, and you'll be over more than anything if you just this much. And there's too much ego. So as long as people can gel and work together, like I loved working with April as my manager because we had such a good chemistry that she knew what I was going for before I did it.
That's one.
That's the kind of person you need, right? So if we can get more of those, I'm all for it. If we get just, and I say respectfully, just slutty chicks sitting around the ring, or just guys who want to be in wrestling but can't take a bump standing ringside, that's not, to me, it's not a valid manager. Someone who has passion for the business, can do their best to promote the person they're with as well as themselves. That's a manager.
Mhm. All right. So my next question is open to you both, but April would have more experience on this. What would you attribute the evolution of women's wrestling to?
Hmm. That's a tough question. What do you think, Ricky? I mean,
I am happy where wrestling is now for women.
yeah,
I'm disgusted, not disgusted. I'm disappointed with the attitude
Attitude Era.
did
Just
for wrestling.
that was, where I was going with that. I feel like that really, uh, it took away, in my opinion, the value of
What wrestling is.
what wrestling is, especially women in wrestling. You think back, years ago when women used to try to get into wrestling, and we're talking like way back, like,
Oh, glow days.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
and women worked really hard to have a role in wrestling, and I felt like the Attitude Era just kind of washed all of that. It's very sexualized.
It hurt.
Yeah.
I got like a I don't know. Okay, Wendy Richter, right back in the late '70s, early '80s, was a woman's wrestler. Uh, Muda, Medusa,
Yeah.
or not Muda, sorry, Medusa,
Medusa.
and Mae Young, and I'm gonna kick myself for forgetting her name. She was like the heel woman. Shoot, I'll come back to it later. They were wrestling. They made women's wrestling believable. When you had your Stacy Keeblers and your
Tories.
yeah, when Tori first came in, more sexualized, Sunny, woman, though they were more sexualized, and more like
Trish Stratus, when Trish first came out, she was very
sexual, especially for a Toronto girl.
Yeah.
Gail Kim, same way. The bra and panty matches and stuff like that. Like, it's like, I get it, sex sells, but at some point it's just boring. That to me would be, I'm going to go for a smoke. I'm going to go for a beer. I'm going to go get something from the concession stand. I think the new evolution of women's wrestling, I think since probably around Paige, as much as I hate to use Paige as the example, but since Paige, I've seen women's wrestling start to elevate to the point where you've got your Becky Lynch's, you've got your Eo's, what's his name? Io.
Yeah.
You
look at now a lot of the women's wrestlers where we're looking at Jordan Grace, we're looking at Bianca Belair, we're looking at Jade Cargill, and like how muscular these women are, how strong they are, how they, have really changed from being sort of these, women with big boobs and skinny, and now they look like strong, empowering women. Yeah. To me, that's something, I always wanted to kind of be more like the Chyna, that strong woman. And back when Chyna was in Attitude Era, she was considered, manly and really people were not kind to her because of her physique. And now we flash forward all these years and we see women who are strong and muscular and not ashamed of it and embody it. And now they're being praised for that. So to me, I think that speaks volumes, leaps and bounds to where we were back in the 90s type to where we are flash forward now, 2025. That's like a whole 180 where we were versus where we are. That's a huge movement in women's wrestling, in my opinion. We have, women who are now headlining some of these really main or close to semi-mains at, these significant wrestling events, historic events. That wouldn't have happened way back, in the 90s, definitely not 80s. So
you would have got an undercard or maybe curtain.
Yeah. So to me, I see it's leaps and bounds from where it was at one point versus where it is now.
Yeah, ladies' matches were considered a gimmick match, sort of like the I hate to use the term midget, but that's what they call it, the dwarf, the little people wrestling. They were considered a gimmick match, a farce, a comedy thing. Just let's throw this in there. And now, like, these women are actually going out there and we've had Jordan Grace on one of our shows, and this woman is tremendous. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, I was just, speaking, we look at WrestleMania that just took place. There was what, four women's matches?
There was a tag match, there was a Charlotte Flair match, and there was a three-way IO match.
There was the Bianca.
There was Bianca, Rhea, and IO.
So there was multiple women's matches on WrestleMania that would have never happened in the past. That just wouldn't have been a thing. And if it was, it may have been, early on. Yes, I said there's 4 women's matches. Yeah. That just wouldn't have happened. And like now the fact that there's 4 women's matches in WrestleMania, like wild.
2 per day.
Yeah.
What was a 6-day card? What was a 7-day card? I think. Whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a strong component of what wrestling is now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I would attribute it to the fans. Like, I think they're just tired of seeing women being portrayed in a rather shallow fashion.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at any show that we've seen, like I'd say 40 to 50% of the fans, not just there because boyfriend or whatever, their fans come with their own shirts or women.
Yeah.
Right. So they need someone that they can cheer for, someone that idolizes, they can look up to and cheer for, and like have that sort of that kinship with. That's wrestling. You need to be able to bond with who it is you're cheering for, who you're admiring, who you want. That's what this is about. So yeah, that's fantastic. Great evolution as far as I'm concerned.
So why should wrestling fans pay attention to independent wrestling shows?
Easy is everybody you see in AEW, TNA, WWE, they came from somewhere, right? Just like any professional baseball player, hockey player, football player, we're over in Europe. So football player, they all come from somewhere. They all go to, the triple A's, the minors, college, high school. You have to start and work your way up. So the guys that, like, again, Jordan Grace worked for us maybe 3 months before she was signed to WWE. People got to see her. Not that she was in TNA at the time, but she was still doing indie shows. And then the next minute she was gone. She was in WWE. We had Alex Shelley on the same card as Jordan Grace. Again, gone. Him and Sabin are in WWE. These guys, they'll work on this level. The new next generation, Sean Legacy, for anybody who has not seen this kid, check this kid out, okay? Out of nowhere, he reached out and said, "Hey, are you taking bookings?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. We'll give you a shot, kid. You have a great look." We saw some little snippet of his stuff. He came and worked for us. The kid was amazing. Now he's a WWE prospect, like a year later. Like that's why you go to indie wrestling, to see these guys as they evolve to the next level. Without indie wrestling, there is no next level. You need to support the indie guys to go out there and hone their crafts, hone what their abilities, how they can talk to a crowd, how they can interact, how on the fly cut off a different moveset because nothing was working the way they thought it was going to work. This is the time to hone your craft before going up and seeing it on a global level. You know, I mean, that is why independent wrestling is so critically important. These guys need the ability to be able to go out and perform in front of, and again, I say respectfully because there's some companies that maybe draw 20 people. You know what I mean? But the 20s, the hundreds, the thousands before that next evolution, before going to an AEW, an ROH, a Glory, Impacts, right? Like that's the goal. Like one of our guys just came back from doing Noah.
Yeah.
Just came back from Japan from doing Noah. These are the things that you have to do to get to those next levels. And I'm comfortable being who I am. I believe April's come home. I don't mind being the guy that I'm at this level doing what I'm doing. I have aspirations to grow, but I know my place is to make sure there's a safe environment for the next group of talent, the next generation of wrestlers that aspire to be the next Hulk Hogan, John Cena, whatever. I want them to have that platform to feel safe, go out, hone their craft, and go out and be that person. That, as parents, for lack of a better term, is what we want. And that's why it's so important to go out to go to WWE was what, 70, $100. WrestleMania was like 300. Our show is $10. You know, I mean, we're the only show in town where you can take a family to go to a home, like a great event for less than going to the movie theater. The only thing you can do in today's economy, which is, I don't know how it is over in Budapest or UK, where it's tough over here. Like we're going through, like everyone else, different shifts in the economy. We want to make sure that those people, any people, can come to our show and for 3-4 hours, forget about that stuff, forget about life, and just enjoy that fantasy. And it's cheaper than anywhere else they can go.
Yeah, and I think it's important too, like when we look at the indie wrestling scene, especially over here, is if you came to one of our shows, the diversity in people that are at the shows, we have anywhere from seniors in wheelchairs to young children. We have, huge like Sunny.
We're very open to all walks of life.
Yeah, everybody's welcome.
All genders, all sexual.
It is one place you go, and it is a no judgment zone.
Yeah.
You come and you get to be you, and nobody questions it. Yeah. Nobody looks at you. Nobody says anything, because everybody is a brother and a sister when you come to our indie wrestling shows. That's just how it is. Yeah. And that's a really beautiful thing, because not often do we really just get to be who we are and accepted for who we are in that type of space. And that is what, our indie shows bring, is everybody's welcome. We have bikers there. We have people with disabilities there, but everybody is one when they come to our shows.
There's no judgment.
Yeah.
We're all here for the same thing. Let's enjoy this and be us, and then when we leave here, whatever. But we call our fans the top tier nation, because we are a group, we are a family. Our fans will stop us on the street and ask us about shows, or hey Ricky, hey April, when do we get to see it? And it's and we live in a city of 500,000 people, so to be seen in the noises is a weird flex, but it's fun for us, because it's like, they know they can approach us. They know that we're them. We're no better or worse than anybody else. We're just like you. We want you to feel that you can engage with us. So people message us daily asking us how we are. I'm having a rough day. I just want to reach out and say hi to you to feel better, to know that you're there for me. We have no problem with that. We welcome our fans to do that, because without them there is no us. So yeah, it's family, it's community. It is that top tier nation, and we're trying to get into a global where hopefully we'll be able to have our server up soon enough and have all of our shows broadcast across the globe.
And we talked about, you brought up P earlier, which is a perfect example of this, is that there are fans that build relationships with each other as well, and they come to the shows and they have connected because of indie wrestling and have built friendships, and they come to the shows and they recognize each other, like, oh, I'm going to sit with you because I know who you are. We built a friend. You connected with JP, I know, online. I mean, thank goodness for online technology these days. It wouldn't have been a thing in the past, which brings it to a whole different platform. But it's like it's really beautiful to see how people just connect and build these relationships with one another at these indie shows. And there's a respect for each other. You can love one person, you can hate the other person, you can boo and cheer, but everybody respects who you're cheering and everybody respects who you're booing, and there's no fights, about that.
Mhm. Yes.
So,
Yeah, no, it's again, it's like you said, great. It's community. It's yeah. There's I don't think there's one other place like you go to a hockey game, a football game, people will literally fight in the stands over who you're cheering for. Here, everybody just we know that it's fun. We know that at the end of the day, I mean, there's no, Stanley Cup or World Cup or whatever. There's a title, sure, but like at the end of the day, it's about this. And if you hate the guy in the ring, you take it out on the guy in the ring, not the fan cheering for that guy. You know what I mean? That's what makes this beautiful is that you can go there and you dispel disbelief long enough to just be like, I forgot about my problems today. I'm having a great time. Well, I don't care that this guy is this guy or this guy's like that or I mean, this guy's wearing this clothing. Who cares? I'm about that. I'm about what I'm seeing right there. You know what I mean? I'll sit, I'll enjoy when I leave. I'm a different person. But here, I'm safe, I'm happy, and I'm enjoying my $10. So yeah.
Well, it's certainly my mission, so to speak, on this podcast to talk to more indie wrestling personalities like yourselves, and hopefully this conversation may get people to buy more tickets to May Day, May 31st. Yeah. So,
I'd love more. I love we have more room. We just had a charity come up to us and take 250 tickets off us this morning. So
the more people, the better.
yeah, it's gonna you just need a bigger venue.
Yeah.
of course, yeah. So you mentioned that you're retired, but when you're in the ring, I'm assuming that there is a certain distance between April Jones and Ricky Stardust in the ring and your day-to-day persona. I wonder if those two personalities overlap in any way, shape, or form, or four, because I'm talking to two of you.
When I was Ricky, I was the good guy. She was the bad guy. So there was a very big divide between us at that point. When I was Dust and we were together, our characters weren't who we are in the real world. I'm assuming that's what you're
I
asking.
think he's over. Are you asking do our true selves overlap with our identities?
Certainly.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I don't bite people's ears in the real world. I don't step on their throats or anything like that. No, I believe that what I brought, not necessarily in the ring, because in the ring I'm doing my job. When I'm outside the ring, I'm interacting with fans. I'm the same person as Ricky Stardust, as Dust, as the man you see before you right now, every time, because everybody paid that money to come to a show and they want that chance to interact with you. I treated everybody the same as I treated them, whatever character I was portraying, because that's who I am in the core as a person. In the ring, I was an ass. I did everything I could to steal, cheat, win. What was the Ric Flair? Win when you can, lose when you must, but always cheat. That was Dust. And with April by my side, that's what we did. This is the sweetest, most caring person you'll meet in the real world. This is a woman who literally has birds fly to her hand like Snow White and eat out of her hand when we go for hikes and stuff. That's who April is. She's not someone who's going to like kick you in the groin or slap you in the face if you steal her fruit out of her cart in the grocery store. So yes, there's a massive divide between reality and fantasy in that aspect. And I think that's what makes it kind of fun for us is because we can, for once in our life, be that bad people when we're not, well, we're like too nice in real life to be that person. So it's like a 180 of our personalities.
Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah. Tell me about the value of having fans, especially those who attend live events. Because, of course, you would remember during the pandemic, WWE still puts on shows, but they're put on over Zoom, so you get like tiny screens of people watching while the auditorium or the stadium is empty, and it takes away from the experience, even as a person who's watching it from afar.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I remember I still wrestled during the pandemic, but we had to do it on a Zoom type of situation. Like I wrestled on a beach against a guy um, in front of other people that were just on a beach. You miss as a performer to the fan, you miss that interaction, that energy that live audiences bring. It's very, very, very hard to get the energy or the pump to perform when you don't have that noise, that fan cheering or booing or anything. Because again, like I didn't get into wrestling to carry titles. I got into wrestling to entertain people. And if there's nobody to entertain, it took away my gas. It took away my energy to want to do that. Um, so yeah, I didn't like that at all. So to me, um, fan wrestler are on equal playing ground as far as the importance of professional wrestling. Because without the fans, you don't have the wrestlers. Without the wrestlers, you don't have the fans. So there's not one that's higher value than the other. You know, I mean, they're worth the same for different reasons. So fans, 100%, wrestlers, 100% are equally as important.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like a big thing with having fans there is, I feel like as a wrestler in general, it's like that engagement that we have with them, right? I think back to my childhood and wrestling, and what drew me to wrestling was to escape my reality. A couple hours a week, I tuned into wrestling and I was able to escape what was considered my real world. And, so I always wanted to be able to, if it was for a couple hours, allow young people, young girls, boys, whomever, escape their reality. So when you have the fans there, you have that connection with them. You have that ability to elevate them, in various ways. And fans bring such an energy. And well, we may, and I'll use the term script, plan out what the matches is, and I'll use that loosely. Um, when we have these fans there, it's like there's so many things that we end up doing that's so impromptu because a fan said this, and you kind of get up in their face, and and that's what changes the match. That's what brings the drama and the flair to a match. It's you can plan out, well, I'm going to body slam you, you're going to kick me in the gut all you want. If you don't have the fans and their participation in that, it changes the dynamic of what that match is. And I think back as well as a young child first discovering wrestling. It's seeing the reactions of the fans helps you better understand wrestling as well. If you didn't know anything about wrestling, when you see somebody comes in, everybody's booing. You as a young child automatically knows, oh, that's a bad guy. And somebody coming out and they're cheering, oh, okay, that's a good guy. Great. Now I know who the good guy and bad guy is, because the psychology of wrestling, the psychology of a story and storytelling, it's not always well executed. And so sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle when it's on TV, or especially in indie shows. It is harder to understand what the storylines are because it's not on national television. So the fans really help play that vital role in that story that's being told. So that's, for me, I think the fans are very, very critical. We can come in and do our job, but part of our job is actually feeding off the fans as well. And to me, it's the fans are what we need. If we don't have the fans, you're going to have the most boring match ever.
Certainly, yeah. Yeah, I remember watching the Jake the Snake documentary.
My favorite, yeah.
There's that scene when I believe his family sets up a GoFundMe to pay for his medical costs, and when they show that to him, because the fans, they donated in droves. So Jake the Snake basically just broke down.
Yeah.
Her favorite.
Yeah, he's my favorite. Yeah, I love Jake. And it's like I think of times in my career, and probably Ricky's as well, where you're sort of at that precipice of, you know what, I'm thinking of stepping away. I'm thinking, I'm going to throw in the towel. And all it takes is like to have one interaction from one fan, one random night, and it just solidifies, oh, this is why I'm doing wrestling. This is why I'm in it. And it really changes, I've had experiences where it's changed my own outlook and really changed, my involvement in what I want to bring as a wrestler as well. So
yeah, that's we're as wrestlers, we're all walking around like Rocky Balboa at the very first beginning of Rocky, that guy down on his luck, trying to make a living, doing what he loves to do, waiting for that spot, waiting for that thing, where you get that opportunity to show your stuff. And just like in Rocky, the second he got the spot, the entire world came around him and was cheering for him because that's wrestling. Like you're that underdog. You're going, Andre Hogan. Like Hogan was the underdog, and everybody's cheering on. It's the same. You need those people because those people is what drives you, what drives your story, and from unfortunately, I have to bring financials into this from a business point of view. Drives your business. So yes, fans again, they're pivotal. Without fans, there is no next evolution. You wouldn't have WWE, you wouldn't have AEW, you wouldn't have TNA if there weren't people paying for those wrestlers to do what they want to see. You know, it's a. I hate to go back in history. There's an interesting conversation that was just had where back in the day with the Hogans, the Flairs, even like the Rock,
Okay.
where their salary cap was about $1 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's nothing compared to today's salary cap where they're 15, $20 million. You know what I mean? Go back to
it was Kurt Angle. They were interviewing Kurt Angle, and he was talking about that. And it's like interesting because you look back at those days and like Ricky's saying is like the most that these marquee guys were making was $1 million
a year.
And then they're lucky if they made 2.5 million on merch, gate sales, business endorsements. And now these guys is like guaranteed contracts of 10, 15 million plus. So it's like that evolution as well. But the fans have also brought that to the table. People are willing to pay that.
The fans are buying the merch, they're buying the tickets, their books, etc. They're the ones, they're the engine of this business. They're the ones, just like football, just like hockey, like any other sport. They're the driving force to making this bigger and bigger and bigger. The fans, again, are that lifeblood. Without that blood, we die. It's over. So we are more than grateful to our fans on a daily basis because without them, there is no us.
Well, I certainly hope you count me as one of the fans.
It's a ticket for you at the door if you can make the play.
Oh yeah, I certainly hope so, but unfortunately, I won't be able to. Yeah, unlike many people, I actually got into wrestling pretty late in life. Only earlier last year, actually, I tuned into a wrestling match because Rick Rubin told me to do so in a podcast somewhere, and ever since then I couldn't stop. And of course, Rick Rubin is also the guy who founded Smoky Mountain with Jim Cornette. So that's one of the it's one of the great things I found out. So for the final question, it's more like a request. So for those who do not know professional wrestling terms, cutting a promo means to give a speech. So how would you, as your characters or as yourselves, cut a promo for May Day? So you're welcome to.
I'm going to let Ricky do this one because this is Ricky's area of expertise.
I'm actually going to be completely honest with you. I think we did a hell of a promo with this entire interview. I don't think we need to sell our product as much as we need to just inform the public of what wrestling is, who we are. But from a promo point of view, we generously give ourselves to this business. We are all about pro wrestling. We're all about our fans. As I said, we just had actually, I don't know if I brought up. We just worked a deal with the YMCA where we're going to be helping underprivileged kids come to our shows at no cost, just to give those families an opportunity to come to our shows.
In our community.
In our community, to have a night out, to again put aside whatever negative energy they have in their lives to come to a show. Forget about it for 4 hours. Just come to some place and feel safe and loved and happy, right? We have Rhino coming to the show, who is going against Diener. That's a pay-per-view on TNA any day of the week. We have I can announce this because it's fine. Su Young from TNA is coming to face NWA and our current women's champion, Taylor Rising. As I mentioned to you before, WWE prospect Sean Legacy will be on hand with this, and he's going to be facing a young guy from our region who's been global. He's actually been in your neck of the woods in Avant Vertigo. We have the world's or wrestling's greatest pop star in Jesse Bieber, who, and I haven't announced it yet, but you'll be the first to hear it, will be going against the Flamingo himself of Cody Lane. We've got young tag teams making their debut at top tier in the new guys who just recently worked against the Hardy Boys, facing our tag team champions of Puff and Ricky. The young man I told you about from Noah, who came back from Japan, right. He's going to be coming in. Yes, Bryce Hansen is going to be fighting Rohit Raju. Yeah. There's so much more. What else we got?
Cutler.
Oh, we have, yes, how can I forget? Ortiz and Cutler. AEW's own Brandon Cutler is going to be on hand.
Ortiz.
And we have Ortiz coming in. We have, again, like I said, the AEWs, the TNAs, the WWEs, the ROH. These guys are coming in, and they're now giving local talent, our boys, a chance to say, no, we're coming up. And that's what you get to see for $10 a ticket at Hamilton Convention Center, May 31st for Mayhem. Tickets available at www.toptierwrestling.com.
Yes. I wonder if there will be like a video playback for those like myself who couldn't make it.
We are in the midst right now. We're working with a media company, or an esports company actually, as there will be their wrestling platform on their esports, and they're going to be putting us on their server. They're going to have all of our old shows, as well as coming into, I believe it's September, we'll be doing live stream to people across the world that can't make the shows. So people like yourself.
And I know you spent some time in school in the Hamilton area. So it was actually Mohawk.
It's Mohawk College.
Mohawk College. They play a pivotal role with us as well. They come in, their students do lots of filming, editing. So we really want to, and our goal is always to work within our community and allow, once again, these students to come in, and what a wonderful experience for them to have. Like, wrestling isn't hockey, wrestling isn't basketball. Like, wrestling's a hard one for film. It's a hard one for photography. It's, it allows them, they've been putting promos, the graphic
creative control
control with us. So we encourage it, and we allow them. We're super happy to work with them to allow these kids and young adults to come in and give them that platform as well, and I think one thing that we didn't really capture on is never forget that indie wrestling is such a creative outlet for everybody. And you look at us as wrestlers, we have creative control, especially in indie wrestling. We have creative control over our personas, our movesets, how we present ourselves, how we engage. You don't have that when you start hitting the fence. It's they control that for you. And so to be able to come and constantly evolve as a wrestler while you're in indie wrestling, and perfect who you are, and turning face and to heel, or heel to face, it changes so much. It adds such a different layer than what you're going to get in the feds. And that's something I think it's really, to me, very important to mention. The difference between the indies and the feds is like, who you're seeing is going to be completely different. Everybody has creative control over what they're bringing to the table.
The other thing on that, just to caveat that, because we are very strong on local and staying true to Hamilton, Ontario. We only our sponsors are only homegrown sponsors. Like, instead of liquor, which we can get in the United States or overseas, Black Fly is one of our largest sponsors, and they pour. Anybody can get their hands on Black Fly, get that root beer. It is crazy good. But no, like, anybody, we only support, I should say we only support, we thrive to support local businesses. because those businesses in our communities provide the jobs for the people that come to our shows, provide the facilities, events, products that facilitate us as a community. So it's all about being, again, like top tier nation. We are all about keeping ourselves tight and communal and trying to grow not just us, but our community as well.
Of course. Yeah. So one of my favorite things in every wrestling show is when the bad guy, the heel, uh, talk trash about whatever city that he happens to be in, she happens to be in. So if that happens in May Day at least once, then I would consider that a good show.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen. It'll happen.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Can't wait. So thank you very much, April and Ricky of Top Tier
Thank
Wrestling.
Oh, thank you.
you.